Okay, in this video, I'm going to be showing you how to make wire links. And we're going to start by learning how to make a wire link beaded chain. You can see that when you go to choose your different beads, there's a variety of different sizes. The size of the bead will help you determine the size of the metal that you want to wrap them in. This bead would have looked funny if it was wrapped in a very thick wire. So you need to make sure that you use the right gauge wire for the beads. And wrapping of these loops just takes some practice, and you want to be consistent. And that's where, if you remember when I was showing you the video about the tools, and one set of the tools had Sharpie marks, this is when you might want to mark your round nose pliers. So to begin, you're going to choose your beads, and I just have two different examples here of some little bit larger beads, which were the same size that was on this chain, and then some very tiny beads. And I'm going to show you how to do this. For the little beads, I'm going to be using 22 gauge wire. And what you're going to want to do is first make a P-loop on the end of your wire. So using your round nose pliers, you are going to take your thumb, remember you want to use your thumb and not squeeze tight with the plier, and I'm going to leave some wire sticking up here because I have to have wire that I can use to wrap around the base of the loop. I need to decide the size of the loop. If I made a huge loop and I was using a little tiny bead, it would look funny. You want the loops to normally be smaller or close to the size of the bead. So I'm going to go not clear at the end, but I'm going to go pretty close to the end, and like I said, you may want to mark this with a Sharpie. So first thing you're going to do is you're going to turn with pressing with your thumb and with your wrist until you can't turn anymore. And then you're going to just open the pliers and come back, and you can turn a little bit more so that you have a closed loop or a circle, completely closed. Now this is not wrapped, it's open. So then when you go to wrap this, I need to get a pair of either needle nose or flat nose pliers, and I'll just grab a pair of flat nose. You don't want to use your round nose pliers because it will put indentations in this, but I'm going to take the flat nose pliers and I'm going to take that little piece of wire and wrap it around at least twice. And this is another thing that's important as far as consistency. If I start with my first wrapped P-loop and I go around twice, I want every single one of those wrapped loops to have the exact same number of wraps. So this one here has 3 wraps on either side of the bead. So I'm going to use 2, and then there's this little tiny piece of wire I have to go in with my flush nose pliers and trim that away. Okay, now I can cut this wire, and I want to make sure with this first one that I give myself plenty of room to put the bead on and then wrap the other side. Let me go a little bit closer here so you can see this. So now I've got my wrapped P-loop on one side here, and I am going to put my bead on. I'll put this bigger bead on here. I'm going to slide it on. Now I need to wrap the other end of this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my round nose pliers, and I remember about where I was on the plier, but if you do not, like I said, mark it. And I need to leave enough space between the bead and the top of the plier to wrap around 2 times. And like I said, it's going to take practice, but I'm going to make my loop, twist, and bring this wire around. Now, you can adjust this at this point. If I look here and see, okay, that's going to be really hard to wrap around 2 times, you could just open back up this ring and adjust it and turn it so that there is a little bit more space there. Same if you wrap it to where there's too much space. You want to adjust that. Then, and I've kind of messed up my loop doing that twice, I'm going to again gently grab it with my flat nose pliers so I don't lose the shape of that loop, and I'm going to wrap around twice. Okay, and then I will go in and trim it. Remember, you always want to cover when you're trimming your wire so that it doesn't fly and hit anyone. So this is the first wrapped loop. Now, for the second one, I am going to again leave enough space at the top, and once you make your first one, you'll be able to, remember exactly how much wire you left sticking out. I'm going to make another loop, twist it, but this time before I wrap this loop, I'm going to take this other link I already made and slide it on. Then I'm going to grab, and you'll get used to having to use pliers and get into little places. I'm going to grab that ring very gently, wrap this wire around twice. Now if this is hard for you to wrap with your fingers, you can grab another pair of pliers, and you can use those pliers to grab that little wire to help you pull that around. So then I've still got my wire attached to the package, but I can use it and wrap it with another set of pliers and go around twice. And then I have to come in and trim it. Use the closed side of the pliers down, and remember to cover it up. Okay, so now I've got my wrapped link here. It's dangling, and it is attached to the one that I just wrapped. And I can see in the video screen there's a little sharp piece of wire sticking out here. And what you want to do is make sure that you take your pliers and you bend that on around and make sure it doesn't stick out and that it's not sharp. Okay, then I'm going to cut, and last time I remembered I had cut so that there was like 1.25 inches. You have to have room for the bead and another loop. I'm going to slide the bead on and do another loop, and I just keep going and adding my links in. It's just real important that there's not space in here, that these are tightly connected. If I were to make a loop here and leave too much space, I'll show you what that would look like. Okay, so here, if you look at this wire, I have a lot of space above that bead. Well, if I then wrap this 2 times around, getting caught on my pliers, there's all this space here, and this is going to move, and you do not want that. That needs to be very, very, very tight, right up next to the bead. So I'm just going to undo this, go back in with my pliers, okay, and I have to be careful now because this wire has been work hardened, and I'm going to redo that loop so that it's lower. Sorry, I keep going out of the screen. My camera person's gone. And then I'm going to wrap that around and then trim it. So that it's tight. Oops, in the screen. Okay, so that is your basic wrapped P-loop chain. P-loops you will use for a lot of things. If you're going to be making earrings, you will, or even a charm to hang from something. If I wanted to add a charm onto a finished bracelet, such as this, let me zoom out a little bit. So here's this finished bracelet, and there isn't a charm or anything that hangs here. If I wanted to add a charm, I could cut a piece of wire. I could make my P-loop up here, and I could hang a charm from this, which once you're making all charms, you'll have all kinds of things